The New York Islanders' lack of goal scoring is causing real danger to their season. We'll talk about what it'll take to get out of this scoring slump and some possible solutions. All that coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Tuesday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your live NFL bets all season long. I'm Gil Martin. I've been covering the New York Islanders for almost 2 decades, and I wrote the book Ice Wars on the history of the Islanders' rivalry with the Rangers from 1972 to the modern era. So glad you could join us and talk a little Islanders hockey today. And we have got a lot to discuss on today's show. The New York Islanders are struggling to score goals. We'll talk about what they can do to get out of that slump. We'll talk about the need for toughness as well and how that's impacting the Islanders, plus who needs to step up. And we will preview tonight's game against the Tampa Bay Lightning. So all that and more coming up on today's show. Let's start with the lack of goal scoring. This homestand, and, we are now 5 games into the homestand. In this homestand, the New York Islanders have scored a grand total of 6 goals. 6 goals in 5 games. And let's face it, that is not a winning formula. In fact, the only game the Islanders won on this homestand, they were shut out. Their only goal came in a shootout. And, that should tell us a lot about where this team is at goal scoring wise. They are just not able to score enough goals. And obviously the loss of Kyle Palmieri and JG Pageau is going to make the goal scoring situation more difficult for this team. And obviously, and everydayers will remember, we talked on yesterday's show that it would be a big mistake for the New York Islanders to go out there and mortgage the future to try to sneak into the playoffs this year. And that any player they're going to acquire should be a young player who is, NHL-ready and maybe somebody who's going to be there for the foreseeable future. And you don't want to be giving up picks and prospects unless you're adding another Ritchie type, someone who is ready to step in. And, to me right now, what you need to do is promote from within, bring up some guys. Maybe some guys are going to move up from the 4th line to the 2nd line or 3rd line to the 2nd line or what have you. And you've got to give the guys in your locker room right now every opportunity to shine. So right now, Max Shabanov has been promoted to the top line. And, I get it to a point. They have Horvat, Heineman, and Shabanov. And Shabby, Max Shabanov, Maxim Siplikov, Ritchie, Anthony Duclair, Simon Holmstrom. These are the guys, in my mind, more than anybody, who need to step up their game. Heineman is already being productive, 10 goals already on the season. Can't say enough about Bo Horvat. Imagine if he had, players on his wing who were being more productive. I do not like right now the combination of Matthew Barzal, Anders Lee, and Jonathan Drought on the second line. And the key in my mind is Lee and Barzal. I don't think that's a good match because Anders Lee is a little too slow to keep up with Barzal for sure, and to a lesser extent with Drought. And I get the combination, but I think Barzal and Drought are a little too similar in their styles. They're both pass-first guys, and Lee is just not quick enough to keep up with either one of them at this stage in his career. So I kind of would prefer that they separate Barzal and Lee, but there are guys on this roster right now who have just underachieved who need to step up. Maxim Siplikov has got to be at or near the top of that list. He is a guy who, and every day as we'll remember, I've said time and again, he doesn't fit the fourth line skill set that we typically expect. So I would like to see him at least on the second or third line get a chance to show what he could do. Unfortunately, there's that old adage, you got to earn your playing time. And this year, Siplikov just hasn't. But Cal Ritchie, right now, with J.G. Pageau out of the lineup, has a big opportunity on the third line to show what he can do. He is a guy you need to get in that lineup and step up. And again, he's not going. Here's the sort of thing we need to all understand. You're throwing Cal Ritchie up onto the third line. And that's where I think kind of he belongs under ideal circumstances at this stage in his career. But just because he's in the lineup where J.G. Pageau used to be before he was injured doesn't mean he's going to do all the things that J.G. Pageau did. I don't see Cal Ritchie killing penalties or winning faceoffs the way J.G. Pageau did. Ideally, though, I do think he can give you more offense than J.G. Pageau did as soon as he's a little bit more comfortable in his role, really, and in the NHL. So hopefully we see that from Ritchie. But, let's assume that Matthew Darche is right and J.G. Pageau is back before Christmas. That gives Cal Ritchie 3.5, 4 weeks, let's say 3-4 weeks to show that he belongs in the top three lines. Simon Holmstrom, 5-on-5, he has not produced much offense at all this season. And the Islanders are going to need him to step up and step up soon. Because, again, last year, 20 goals, everybody was thinking, hey, he's kind of turning a corner. Well, he's kind of on pace for about 14 goals this year. And 5-on-5, he's just not getting it done. 24 games into the season, 4 goals, 9 points, a -6 plus-minus. Not going to get the job done. And again, Holmstrom has the speed to play with Matthew Barzal. And he has the moves. And he has a good shot if he would ever take it. Guess what Simon Holmstrom's shooting percentage is? And he's not scoring at a particularly good clip. 17.4% shooting percentage. Emil Heineman and J.G. Pageau are the only players with a higher shooting percentage right now than Simon Holmstrom. But here's the problem. Simon Holmstrom has 23 shots on goal in 24 games. And the issue in my mind with Simon Holmstrom has always been one that is more about his confidence or lack thereof than about his skill set. He needs to believe in his shot and he needs to shoot more often. He is capable. He scored 20 last year. I think he could score 25, but he's got to shoot. You've got to have more than one shot on goal per game. Right now, he's 23 shots in 24 games, a hair under one, but for all intents and purposes, one shot on goal per game. You need to be a little more aggressive, go to the net, shoot the puck more often than what you've been doing. And then it just, Anthony Duclair played in all 25 games, 3 goals, 8 points. Now, he's a +3 on a team that is full of minuses. But 8 points in 25 games, that's, again, that's about a 10 or 11 goal, 18 assist season, 28 points. Not going to get it done. And again, Duclair, like Holmstrom, has the speed to stay with Barzal. Got to get more shots on net. And then overall, as a team, can we please go to the dirty areas? Can we please get in front of the net and do something to make the goalie's life more difficult? This team isn't doing enough of that. And that ties into the next thing we're going to talk about, and that's toughness, because the Islanders are lacking it, and it's hurting them in several different ways. We're going to talk about that next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you could place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. They've got live spreads and money lines that adjust instantly. Player props update as the guys heat up, and you can bet on the next touchdown scorer, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked in to every snap, every drive, and every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Toughness. It is something that the Islanders have been lacking all season, and the loss of Alexander Romanov only makes that worse. Keep in mind, Romanov has only played in 15 games this year, and that's going to be his final total. And yet he is still 4th on this team in hits. The only players ahead of him, J.G. Pageau with 33 in 22 games, Casey Zizekas with 63 hits in 25 games, and Emil Heineman with 89 hits in 25 games. This Islanders team needs more physicality. And we saw this play out against the Capitals on Sunday. Ryan Leonard, the rookie of the Capitals, literally laughed. If you go back and look at the replay, literally laughed at Tony DeAngelo, who objected to a hit that Leonard had made. And then Leonard drew a ridiculous penalty call against Matthew Schaefer, where Leonard slashed Schaefer. He cross-checked Schaefer, who didn't even have a stick, and then Schaefer lunged at the puck to try to get it, a loose puck, ended up making contact with Leonard, and there's your penalty. First of all, Schaefer should have gotten a call. That cross-check and that slash both should have been penalties against Leonard, but the referees are not going to get all of those things. I am not worrying about that, even though it was a bad call. But to have a rookie, no less, a rookie who is projected as a goal scorer, not as a tough guy, although he does have size, laughing in the face of Tony DeAngelo when he's trying to stick up for his teammates and himself, that's embarrassing. And nobody and nothing is stopping opponents from taking liberties with Islanders players right now. And that has to change. How do you change it? Let's start with the easy thing. The Islanders just called up Mark Gatcomb from Bridgeport Sunday. He did not play against the Capitals. You cannot tell me that Mark Gatcomb doesn't add extra elements to the fourth line over either Kyle McLean or, right now, as much as I hate to say it, Casey Cizikas. McLean has played 11 games. He is a -4. He has no goals and 1 assist. In those 11 games, he has 19 hits. He doesn't add a lot of offense. He doesn't add a lot of physicality. He's average defensively. He's decent in the corners. But you can't tell me that on a team lacking physicality that you don't want to go out there and put Gatcomb in. You've got Casey Cizikas, who can play center, who is a natural center. And so, by the way, is Kyle McLean. And Cizikas, who I've loved for a long time as a hockey player. I've celebrated his role on this team for a very long time. But this year, he's slowing down, and it's noticeable. He's only 45% in the faceoff circle. He has 1 goal and 5 points in 25 games. And I get it. Casey Cizikas is not on the ice to be the most productive offensive guy. But defensively, he's slowing down. He's not winning 50-50 puck battles the way he used to. You have to sit either Cizikas or McLean and get Mark Gatcomb into the lineup. And remember, Gatcomb gave you more offense last year. And I'm not saying he's about to go out there and, score 15, 20 goals on the fourth line. He was on pace to get close to 20 goals last year, but his shooting percentage was unusually high. I don't think that number was sustainable. Okay? But that doesn't mean that he wouldn't give you more offense than probably Casey Cizikas and Kyle McLean combined when it comes to goal scoring. And B, more physicality. So you've got these two guys on the fourth line right now who, I don't want to say they're dead weight, but they're not pulling their weight. You lack physicality up and down the lineup. Let's get Gatcomb in, sit one of these two guys. You could even alternate sitting them. Or maybe all of them play 2 out of every 3 games. But let's get a little more physicality into the lineup. And then on defense, I like the idea that the Islanders made a move to put Travis Mitchell in the lineup ahead of Boqvist. And look, I'm not saying that Travis Mitchell is the answer. He's not, okay? But he can give you some short-term juice. I wouldn't mind either seeing the Islanders call up Marshall Warren again. He was bigger, could give you a little more physicality. And then down in Bridgeport, you've got Gleb Veremyev, who can certainly give you some physicality. And why not give the guy a shot? I don't understand the reasoning behind not bringing up. Look, I am not saying you go out and you all of a sudden start adding guys who, are just going to mix it up, or you just adding random guys from Bridgeport or tough guys who can't do anything else. But you've got guys on your roster, guys who can give you more physicality, guys who can play a different style of hockey than what you've been playing at. And the Islanders don't need to be the most physical team in the league. They just need to be physical enough not to be pushed around. We saw it against the Flyers. We saw it against the Capitals. It can't continue this way. And everydayers, you'll remember, I said it even before these injuries hit. Somebody's got to protect Matthew Schaefer. We've already lost guys to injury. I don't want to see Schaefer be next on that list. He's 18 years old. He's willing to stand up for himself, but physically he needs to get bigger. He needs to put on muscle. That takes time. In the NHL, 22 or 23-year-olds are almost universally bigger, more physically mature and muscular than 18-year-olds. Until he grows a little bit more physically, he needs somebody on the ice who is willing to at least make opponents think twice before they go after Schaefer or Barzal or or Bo Horvat. There are guys on this team that it's part of hockey. Intimidation is still in 2025 part of hockey. It may not be what it was in 1975 or 85 or 95, but you still can change the way a game is being played and who wins and who loses by being the more physical team. And the Islanders have not been the more physical team in more than one or two games out of the first 25. Get me somebody who will make this team a little bit more respected and who will make opponents think twice before they go after any player on this roster. All right, Islanders continue the homestand. Game 6 of 7 tonight against the Tampa Bay Lightning. We'll talk about the emotion involved in that. And for our Islanders birthday of the day, a former Islanders #1 pick whose career was cut short by injury and is known very much as the brother of a Hall of Fame player. We'll talk about that and more next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Drip Drop. When I'm hydrated, everything just works better. My focus, energy, mood, even my skin. And that's why I've been using Drip Drop. It's doctor-developed hydration that keeps me running at full power no matter what my day looks like. Drip Drop isn't your average sports drink. It delivers 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of the leading brands using a science-backed formula trusted by medical professionals, firefighters, and over 90% of top college and pro teams. I like making it a part of my daily routine. I'll mix a packet in the morning before I head to the pool to swim, and it helps me get through that midday slump. Hydration is now non-negotiable for me. Drip Drop helps me feel sharper, calmer, and honestly just better overall. Right now, Drip Drop is offering podcast listeners 20% off your first order. So go to dripdrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard and keep your body and mind performing at their best with Drip Drop. Let's not have any doubts about it. Tonight, when the Islanders host the Tampa Bay Lightning, this will be an emotional game for Matthew Darche because this is the team that he worked for, and this is the first time his version of the New York Islanders will be facing his former team. And oh, by the way, we may be catching the Lightning at the worst possible time. They've won 7 games in a row. And they are 16-7-2. We know a lot of these names, but look, 7th in the league in goals scored, 3rd in the league in goals against. They have the number 1 PK in the league. The power play is only 20th. The Islanders would love to be 20th in power play right now. So they're fresh off a 4-1 win over the New York Rangers, and we know the names. Nikita Kucherov, Brandon Hagel, Jake Guentzel, Victor Hedman now on IR, but Andrei Vasilevsky, how good has he been playing? 2.32 goals against, a 9.15 save percentage. He is off to a great start. Let's look at the line combinations of this big, skilled, deep team. Anthony Cirelli centers Brandon Hagel and Nikita Kucherov on the top line. Line 2, from left to right, Jake Guentzel, Dominic James, and Oliver Bjorkstrand. Yanni Gourde centers Zemgus Girgensons and Pontus Holmberg on the third line. And the fourth line is Nick Paul in the middle, Curtis Douglas to the left, and Gage Goncalves on the right. J.J. Moser and Darren Radish are the top defense pair with Hedman out of the lineup. Charlie Edward Dastow and Emil Lielberg are the second defensive pairing. And Declan Carlisle and Steven Santini are the third pair. The goalies, Andrei Vasilevsky and Jonas Johansson. Ryan McDonough, Victor Hedman out. Braden Point day to day, as is Eric Cernak. But it won't be easy. First of all, when you look at these numbers, the Islanders, they cannot rely on the power play, which has been, they've scored, a goal in each of the last 2 games, but still inconsistent. And again, there is a size issue, even without Victor Hedman. The Lightning are bigger, they are stronger, and they can play that intimidation game if the Islanders don't find a way to respond. Let's hope that that is not going to happen, that the Lightning will not intimidate the Islanders. And the other thing is, regardless of who's in goal, you got to pepper this team with shots. Let's see if the Islanders can end their slump right now and at least get another win in one of the last 2 games in this homestand. Won't be easy after the Lightning. It's the Avalanche. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And believe it or not, today is the 50th birthday of former Islanders winger Brett Lindros, the London, Ontario native. First round pick of the Islanders, 9th overall in 1994. Played 33 games for the Islanders that year, had a goal and 4 points along with 100 penalty minutes. Only played 18 games in 95-96, added a goal and 2 assists, 47 penalty minutes, and then concussions ended his career prematurely. One of the big what ifs. He was 6'4", 210 pounds, was going to be the next power forward for the Islanders, and his career just ended. One of his best games as an Islander, well, how about March 7th, 1995, Islanders hosting the Hartford Whalers at the old barn, the Nassau Coliseum. Cue up Brass Bonanza. And in the second period, with the game even at 1, our Islanders birthday of the day, Brett Lindros scores his first career NHL goal. It was unassisted. It put the Islanders up 2-1. Benoit Hogue's empty netter clinched it. Sean Burke was the goalie for Hartford. Jamie McLennan, 23 saves. to earn the win for the Islanders. Brett Lindros, one of the great what-ifs in Islanders history, he is our Islanders birthday of the day. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night until the Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. You could find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL, on YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We are going to get to the mailbag tomorrow, so if you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. If you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You could follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR vs NYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, and I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for a little instant insight and analysis, and it's great to talk Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. Everydayers, we are back tomorrow. We will have our key takeaways from tonight's game against the Lightning. We will have our weekly farm and prospect report, and hopefully, if we have time, we'll dip into the mailbag. If we don't get to it tomorrow, we'll definitely get to it on Thursday's show. So make sure you stick around for that. Until then, have a great day, everyone. Hope we see a better performance tonight. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.